I'm going to show you two sites where there is all kinds of information about ETFs. The first one is etfu.com and the second one is etfdb.com. Both these sites are good. They have a lot of free information. There's all kinds of information available on every possible ETF. So you can use either one of these sites. Each of these sites are good in some respects, and I'll point that out. So let's first take a look at the kind of ETFs we have. On ETFU, they have a top 10 ETF list. If you look at the top 20 ETFs by assets, the biggest one of them all is SPDR. So this is the S&P that we just spoke of in the previous lecture. Its assets in million is 165,000. Basically, $165 billion is invested into the SPDR ETF. And then you have various other large, these are all 62 billion, 54 billion, 52 billion, 38 billion, and QQQ is the main NASDAQ index ETF, that is. So if you wanted to trade the NASDAQ 100, you could buy shares of the QQQ. That's also about 35 billion. Similarly, you have all kinds of ETFs here. These are the Russell. The gold ETF is also a big one. It's 24 billion. GLD is a very popular ETF as well. You have EEM, which is the main emerging markets ETF. That's about 20 billion. So these are some of the ETFs that we'll be looking at as we go into this section. Top 10 US equity ETFs by year-to-date performance. So here they're showing you the performance year-to-date. As we are in Feb 2016. And the markets have been down from the beginning of the year. Just in the past couple of days, there's been an uptick in the markets, but mostly you'll see performances are negative for the 2016. But these are some of the ETFs that have either produced slightly positive or very small negative numbers. Okay, then we have fixed income ETFs. So basically one of the things is there are ETFs for every kind of asset class. So whether it's bonds, whether it's stocks, whether it's indices, currencies, commodities, you have ETFs for all of them. So here's a top 10 list of the bond ETFs. So these are all government treasury bonds. And so they also have various ETFs around them. And then you have top 10 US dividend equity ETFs, and you'll see there's a lot of flexibility here. There's a lot of variety. These are the top 10 international dividend equity ETFs. Let's see, emerging markets. So we have some emerging markets. Here's the ETF for Russia. Here's an India ETF. Here's another India ETF. There's one for South Korea. There's one for Hong Kong. We'll go take a look at some of these ETFs, and you'll see the composition of these ETFs, and you'll see that they mimic the particular index that it's trying to mimic. So here Indy mimics the Nifty 50 in India, and so we'll go take a look at some of those examples. Then you have developed market ETFs as well. So this is for Europe and Japan and Israel and all of that. So similarly, you have now for commodities, physical silver, SLV is a big one as well right here. Gold is of course GLD. Those are the two big commodity ETFs. You also have USO, which is the oil. We're going to study that because oil and the energy complex is so much in the news now. So similarly, you have top 10 US sectors as well. So here you have the XLY, which is the consumer discretionary. The XLF is the financials, and so on and so forth. So on this site, they also have an ETF database. So here, let's first look at ETF questions so we understand what these are. So what is an ETF? An ETF is an investment fund traded on stock exchanges. An ETF holds assets such as stocks, commodities. Most ETFs track an index, such as the S&P 500 or the Dow Industrials. The primary advantages are low cost, ease of use, transparency, wide variety of choice, tax efficiency, and liquidity. And so these are some of the same negatives that mutual funds have. ETFs have solved some of these problems. They haven't solved all of the problems, but they've solved most of the problems. What are the disadvantages? ETFs do require some research and understanding because there are so many of them. There are over 1,600 ETFs listed on US exchange. So the sheer number can be intimidating. But however, we're going to look at how we can narrow down some of these ETFs. Once again, these are all the things that are we've discussed before, and so we don't need to go through it again. If you go and look at the ETF database, you can see that there are there are actively managed ETFs, bond ETFs, alternative clean energy, basic materials, China, commodities. You have pretty much every kind of ETF possible to target any part of the world, any country, any asset class. So much flexibility with ETF. So let's take a look at financials, and you'll see that the main ones are listed here. The main sector ETF, of course, is the XLF. So let's go take a look at XLF. You'll see that the current price is 21.31. And this is the performance over the last 1 year. And so you can see XLF had a high of about 25, came down and came down as low as 19. Now it's at 21. It tracks all the financial companies. So here it'll tell you which index it's actually tracking. So here you can see that it tracks the financial select sector index. Okay, so this is the index that it tracks. Its expense ratio is 0.14. So you can see it's a very low cost ETF. It's got a lot of assets. It's 15 billion. Volume on an average, you can see 48 million of these ETFs are traded on a daily basis. So that is very, very good liquidity. Similarly, just like we saw XLF, we can go and look at any other ETF as well. So let's look for USO. So USO is the oil ETF. So this is a commodity based ETF. And so you can look at it, the price is 8.91, but as you can see, the energy complex has been getting hammered for the last 6 to 9 months. And so it's been coming down from a high of about 21 all the way down to 8. There's a slight bit of uptick in the last few days. Technicals, it's down pretty heavily. It's down 58% from its 52-week high. In fact, let's go back to the XLF. And I want to show you the composition. So here you can see top 10 holdings of the XLF, which is the financials, is Berkshire Hathaway, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Citigroup, AIG, US Bancorp, Goldman Sachs, Simon Property Group, and American Express. And so you can see that it is a concentration of all the big financial companies in the US. In this case, the XLF is a domestic ETF, and therefore it will invest into all these US based companies. But you can see the percentage of holdings. The top 10 put together should be about 40-50% of the ETF. And then whatever this index is tracking, that's exactly what the ETF will also do. If you wanted to just take a trade or an investment into the financials, it's very easy to come and buy the ETF itself. So we'll see examples of that once we go to the trading platform. Now the market is not open, so we won't be able to, I can put in a trade, but we won't be able to actually get it executed. Today was a fairly nice day, and you can see our positions. Price line still continues to go up. So we are up about 181 on that. Chipotle is also going up, and we are short. Remember, this is just a recap of the old positions. We can come to the XLF or the XLE if we wanted to buy the XLF. So this is the financial services ETF. Just buy the ETF itself, just like you're buying a stock. That's how simple it is. And you're instantly going to get exposure to the entire financial sector itself. We'll wait tomorrow and we'll see, and we should get executed. Just like you have stocks, all these ETFs are just like stocks. So you can buy them, you can sell them, you can short them. The good thing is all these ETFs, they also have options on them, and therefore this makes it a very, very attractive asset class. So I want to come to the Market Watch. I've selected on Market Watch, you can say all ETFs. You can see today the Spider is up about 1.45%. Market cap is $175 billion. And you have all these ETFs that are targeted towards some aspect of either the market, the indexes, or the sectors, or the countries. Like EWJ is a Japan ETF. And so if you look at the composition of EWJ, it will tell you exactly what that ETF is. So let's do EWJ. We saw examples of the financials and the commodities. Here is a country ETF. It tracks the Morgan Stanley Japan index. Okay, so that's the underlying index. Whatever that index has, this ETF is going to track it. Now, once again, the Japan ETF has been down quite a bit. So over the last 6 months, the Japanese markets also have retreated from their highs of late. If you look at the holdings, you'll find that these are the top 10 holdings are Toyota, Mitsubishi, Honda, SoftBank, and you'll find that these are some of the top companies in Japan. And so if you wanted to get a direct Japanese exposure, you would come here. Now, let me also show you a currency ETF. FXE is the Euro ETF, the Euro currency ETF. The ETF is trading at around 107. If you look at the Euro itself, it tracks the price of the Euro. So if you look at the Euro itself and the dollar, you would see that the dollar Euro currency rate, the Forex spot currency rate would be 1.078. It closely tracks the euro price. Let's go back to our analyze here. Let's look at some of the characteristics of FXE. So here, that was the last price, and it traded about 380,000. So now, obviously, it's not a huge volume, but it's still, if you wanted to trade, the volume is not great compared to some of these other ETFs. Let's take a look at FXI, which is the China ETF, and it's trading at a last price of 31.32 and 21 million shares. So that's really good volume. Now let's see USO today. I think oil had a good day today, up about 36 cents and traded 53 million shares. So the USO traded 53 million shares. So this is all fantastic volume. If you look at the SPDR, which is of course the largest ETF there is, you'll see that it trades 103 million shares today. That's fantastic volume. You'll find that the bid-ask spread is also very tight. Even in after hours, it's only 2 cents. And once the market opens, this will be even tighter. It'll be 1 cent. The SPDRs are a great way to get broad exposure to the market. Hopefully, we've seen enough examples. And of course, at the end of this section, you're going to get a bonus strategy of how you can take advantage of sectoral ETFs and also give you a key strategy, actually a couple of key strategies. And this is going to be very useful to you because right away you can start with this strategy.